All right, hello, my name is Jaden Williams. I am developing a drone training simulator being mentored by Dr. Hazem Azadi Mood. Thank you so much for taking me under your wing. Um, so the purpose of this simulator is to be able to train people in drone flight to practice in a virtual environment prior to training with a real-life drone. The best analogy I could come up with is that we wouldn't have an astronaut train in a real rocket right from the get-go. We would require him to train in the simulators that we have that mix virtual and physical together. As we all know, technology is evolving very rapidly, and with that requires technologies like this to be put in place as quickly as we can. Having a simulator allows for zero repercussions to occur. We don't have costs or damages in a virtual environment. We won't have drones crashing, of course, or at least that wouldn't cause any costs. Major industries that require this are construction, real estate, film and photography. That's why simulators like this are becoming more and more necessary in the industries. So I developed the simulator within the Unity 3D physics engine. It's 100% physics-based, the drone. I wanted to make sure that it was programmed to be 100% physics-based, and when I say that, within the engine, is that there's no animation, no vector translations, no, it's not moving across coordinates through some type of system. It's using simulated forces and torque within the program itself. With that comes great results that happen on their own because it is all quote-unquote natural. Having the drone move forward makes it lean forward as well, just as it would with a real-life drone, just very minute, leaning back, same thing. This allows for things like front flips and back flips to happen naturally. You can see in the little GIF that the drone that wasn't something programmed into it specifically. That's just a result of it being physics-based. It being physics-based allows for future dynamic scenarios such as wind forces. You could throw an item at it and it would react to it. It would get hit and it would get jerked and all that. It can crash, it bumps into the environment and such, and that brings us to the collision of the drone. It can completely land, it can hit things, it can fall and crash, just as you would need in a simulator to show error. I wanted to make sure that the colliders for the drone weren't too intense because physics simulators usually do require simplicity as much as you can optimize it to be. So there are 4 sphere colliders on the propellers, and there is 1 box collider on the main body of the drone, as you can tell in the photos. But there's the drone again, just trying to land and then falls off the roof. And that brings us to self-balancing. That was an extremely important mechanic that was necessary for the training because a majority of most modern drones, such as DJI and Phantom, have self-balancing in them. And it just makes it more immersive, a more immersive experience, a more realistic simulator. So though wind forces aren't implemented right now, that's something that should come down the line. This would combat that, and when you do lean, it catches itself. It's able to restabilize itself. The basic method is right there, like in the photo. If we were to say that the drone was leaning one way, the propellers, the program detects which propellers are leaning, and then it compares it to the other opposite side of the drone and sees, okay, so the front left and back left propellers are not at the same height as the front right and back right propellers. We need to counter that with some type of torque force. So that here's an example of the self-balancing, and this is without any buttons being pressed. This is completely letting go of the drone and it catching itself by itself. Dynamically. You can see in the logs that I added to in the screen of the simulator, you can see all the calculations. It checks the rotation, position, velocity. The velocity, it catches itself, it brings the velocity down. And the upward power shows what the user is pushing down, and right there it's at 0 to show that the drone is just completely catching itself on its own. And with that, there's also, if you saw in the logs, there's also nearest threat, which brings us to our next slide, is hazard detection. So for a simulator, a training simulator, you need to show how to learn, how to train yourself. So with that, we have the hazard detection, and hazards in the simulator are people, structures, and in the simulator that would be tunnels and the house. When the drone or the user gets too close to a hazard, the propellers become red to show you that you're too close to some type of entity. Back up, try to avoid whatever that may be. And you can see that in the logs as well. You may not be able to see it very well, but it says the nearest threat is at a certain, it finds the nearest threat in an array of threats that there are, and finds the closest one and tells you how far away you are from it using a vector. So as you can see, it gets closer and closer and the numbers go down. So with the people, I thought this would be funny. I wanted to show how the people are randomly generated. This is just an exaggerated visual to show them. I promise they're not self-aware, to my knowledge. The characters are randomly chosen, so you have just a better immersive random experience. You don't have the exact same linear experience every single time. They come out every 10 to 30 seconds. This is every 5 to 10 seconds in this case, just to show it. But this would also be implemented for vehicles and other things such as maybe birds or other types of animals in the future. This is, I would say, relatively, this is early development, and so I want to have more road hazards like the vehicles, wind forces, just more detail in general. I want to make sure though to keep it optimized. Trees, those trees in the simulator were a lot of work. When you're close, they're much more detailed, and when they're super far away, they just disappear, just so it doesn't bring down the frame rate of the simulation. Different training difficulties, that would be great. That's something that I'll be working on real soon. Tasks and challenges, of course, this is a simulator. This is for jobs. We're not doing it just to fly around in a drone. This requires some type of task that maybe could be done. The drone camera angle obviously is super fictional. That's not very realistic to any drone camera. You don't have a third person type of view of a drone camera. It's usually on the bottom or front, so I would love to be able to develop some type of different drone setups and have different real models of real drones such as DJI and Phantom drones, and have different difficulties for all that. So with stabilization, without, maybe lower stabilization, not very good, and then have different levels of wind forces and all that. Just a bunch of things that I'm still implementing, obviously, but we're definitely getting the strong structure or the fundamentals of all of it really covered right now. If you want to follow the project in the future, you can go to jadenw.com. That's on my portfolio website. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Jaden-Williams. But thank you so much. If anyone has any questions, please.
Yeah, I was wondering, is there any inertia or lag in the system where you put in an input and it takes a while for the drone to receive it and react?
It's funny you say that. I purposely, it was actually too quick. It would do it instantaneously because there's different velocity options you can choose in Unity to make it change the velocity immediately. You can make it use a some type of exponential force that increases. I had to write my own type of in between of all that, because when you would press the up key on the simulator right now, it's the space bar. When you press the space bar, it would go up instantly. A lot of drones might take, the more high-tech drones that are a little bit more heavy just take a little bit longer than that and need a little bit of an exponential speed up. And that's what I had to program. So there's definitely calculations made to make it more immersive.
That's kind of what I was wondering, because the simulation can react instantly, whereas the physical drone has to turn on the motor, which has inertia, and
Yeah.
all those things lag basically, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah,
it sounds like you'd have a manual kind of delay that you're
Mhm.
adding to compensate for that.
Yeah, there is a delay. Another thing was that when you would let go of the space bar, the drone would just immediately drop, and drones don't do that. It's either that you let go of it and it stays there, or it slowly goes back down, but it doesn't, instantaneously drop. So I had to get that programmed in as well.
Like the barrel roll functions and stuff like that. I know a lot of drones have basically like prefab controls.
Right,
You can
yeah.
push a button and it does like a. Did you use a library for those to improve your ability to control the drone, or?
No, everything, it was, once I was able to implement the self-balancing, when it was able to just like calculate, oh, this amount of force is needed to counter the offset balance, it was really, I didn't have to do much more, because since it's physics-based and there isn't those animated, like animation presets and all that, I didn't have to worry about it, because it all comes, it's just results, it's all natural. So yeah, like I said, you can do like front flips and all that without any like buttons needing to be pressed. You can use the mouse, if you just like flip if you just move the mouse forward, it'll just do a flip and it'll recatch itself and all that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And the flips. I learned to fly drones in real life, so I crashed them a lot. And I definitely see the use case for this to learn flying. And yeah, I broke a few rotors when I learned flying, and so it's definitely something. What I wanted to ask, can you include a real remote to steer that?
Yeah, if you're talking about like an actual like drone controller.
Yes.
Yeah.
RF remote. I think they have USB these days, and you can hook them to the computer.
Yeah, Dr. Mood was that was the next step that we wanted to take, was start to real soon implement an actual controller. I have a Phantom drone in my closet, so I'll be able to possibly set that up real soon. But yeah, that's definitely one of the nearest next steps.
Yeah, actually, the self-balancing, you had to actually write the feedback type controller to get it to self-balance, given that, or was there like a library or something like that?
I wouldn't consider, I don't think it was exactly a library that I got from anywhere. It was really, so I mean, I guess I could say it's built in within Unity itself. It will tell you the y-axis coordinates of the propellers, and that's how I detect it, is like in this side, like I was saying, like it'll detect if the y-axis on a certain side of the drone is higher than the other. So now you know that the drone is not balanced. So it counters that with a torque force to counter that. It does 1% or 10% of the right and left side difference, and then that's multiplied to the torque of the drone. It's kind of funny how I say that, because obviously you can't just add torque, but that's how you do it in the physics engine. You can just change the velocity and the torque of the drone, and obviously, I mean, even though that might not be exactly how it would work in real life, you definitely have a very realistic result, I would say. Like, it definitely feels like, it's some type of, there's some type of mechanic within the drone that's making it self-balance. A better way could be maybe to use to put upward forces on the propellers themselves, but the actual drone of the body is having the torque be changed. It's being modified.
Because normally that's a very difficult area, because if you put too much torque and then you overcompensate and then you actually increase the oscillations.
Yeah, that was something I did have to deal with, because it would just start to try to, get worse and worse. You get more intense every single time it tried to like rebalance itself. So that's why it only does 10% of the difference, because it would be too much. It'd start flipping itself.
With something like this, there's a lot of moving parts to it. It's a very complex type of program. So what would you say was the most difficult part of nailing all this down?
Ironically, it's so funny you say that. I would say probably the terrain and the environment itself, because with that many trees and that many vertices within the simulator happening all at the same time, it was lagging. It was the frame rate was super low, so I had to figure out how do I have all these little grass PNGs in on the ground. How do I have all these trees in the same shot? I wonder if I can show you a better visual. Here we go. All those trees. You can see in the far back, the trees are just not there. When you get close to them, they appear. So you have detail super close, and then obviously the further away it is, you lose that detail because it's not required. And you can see here the grass. You can see the grass up close and far away. It's not there. You can see actually it disappear in this shot when you go far away on the hill. So yeah, I would say that was the hardest part actually for the whole thing, because that took a lot of optimizing. The drone, I will say one thing, the only animation is the propellers, just to have the immersive visual of the propellers to show that it's flying and stuff. When you do land, the propellers stop. You can see that on the roof shot where it crashes, the propellers do indeed stop. It might not show it in this. Yeah, you can kind of see the propellers stop when the controls are let go right there. You can also see the red hazard visuals being detecting the roof. Like, oh, something's wrong.
I would think that given how many Unity simulations use an outdoor scene, that you can just download an outdoor scene where it does everything you're talking about already, just already done by somebody.
Yeah, I wanted to do it from scratch because when I've done that before, I've run into issues because then you just don't know everything about that entity itself. I could have, found great, I could probably have found, a linear system for the people to walk along. But then I would have to figure out, okay, how can I have the drone detect these hazards, and I need to add collisions there are collisions on the player, so if the drone were to hit the people, the drone would fall over, so I'd have to implement that and implement, various, like so many other things, and I just thought, it's probably better if I start from scratch on essentially everything, so I fully know 100% how everything's working.
So what are your future research ideas on that?
At the moment, I guess right now, I haven't had that on my mind. As of right now, it's probably been more just development, trying to get it done rather than, like worrying about, maybe, I can show this to people and all, and, maybe try to reach out to people. Right now, I'm trying to get it done. I'm trying to have something, get developed. I want to make sure I do have a quality product, because this is, not that I didn't want to do this, I'm glad that I'm getting to present it to you all. It's definitely still early in development, and I wish I could have had another, several months to work on it before I showed you guys. But I think it's at a good enough stage that I can show like the basic version that's out right now. But for anything else, I would love to start.
How to structure research. So you train 10 people on the simulator, and you give 10 people a drone right in the hand.
Right. And yeah, that would be. I definitely need to make the tasks and all that real soon to be able to start like having people do certain tasks within the program. Because right now it's just you just fly around and you try not to hit people, and that's about it. But yeah, I definitely would love to be able to have people train within the program, or it'd be tough because you want to have people that don't train with it and possibly have issues with a real life drone, which that could cause repercussions and costs and damages, so that could possibly be expensive. And then so that'd be the control group, and then you would have people with the virtual environment and then train with a real drone. So that would be the best scenario. That'd be something that I would want to do. That could get expensive as well. I guess right now it's just far down the line.
Jaden, if I add something, so yeah, I think what you said is absolutely true. Ultimately, we want to try it with human users, with real users, see how it performs. But I think to get there, as Jaden basically indicated, we need a lot of work also, to make it as realistic as possible, and if we can add real drone controller or remote to basically add it to the operation, right?